So we are back. Welcome back to Drunkish. We're back with Mia, and we heard your story is so crazy and fascinating. So if you're just tuning in, please listen to the first part of the episode where we heard all about childhood story, getting sober, drinking again, getting sober again. And now you're an adult, you're 30. And I'm so curious because you have such a great life, I think, and a
Thank
great
you.
husband, and who we heard or we will hear his story. I don't know when I'm putting this up, but maybe I'll put his story up next week. But I want to hear. So what happens? How do you get life back? You have to date sober. I feel like dating sober is terrifying.
It is, and it's really terrifying in New York. And I had really interesting I'd meet a guy in class because I was, like I said, doing classes at NYU, and I met a guy there and I dated him, and whew, he was something else. Just a when you're out on a date and somebody's really rude to the waiters and you're like, uh-oh, like I didn't know a lot yet, but I knew that was a red flag. He was a real dick. It was like, I just like it was embarrassing. And then I went out with a guy and I wasn't drinking, and he must have had 10 beers in the time that we had that dinner. And I was like, this is, a setup. It was a setup by my sister-in-law. So it was like it wasn't really going great. And I kind of gave up. I was having fun, just kind of hanging out. I had deep crushes on guys that I would meet in meetings. Deep crushes. Deep. They
So
come to mind.
addicty.
Oh my God. It's like, whatever gets you going to the meeting. I don't know how to flirt. I'm hopeless. I have no idea how. I will not, if anything is relying on me to be made happen, it won't happen. So it all just kind of went down in my head. But I would definitely sit and be like, holy crap, he's so cute. Oh my gosh, and get excited talking to him and all that stuff. But I don't have any game. So nothing ever went anywhere with anybody, which is probably a good thing. And then a girlfriend, I guess, in Seattle, had given my number to a dude who was coming to Seattle. I'm sorry, he was coming to New York to visit, and he'd never been here. He had been stationed in some job, I guess, in Pennsylvania, and he wanted to come do some sightseeing. I thought she was setting us up. So I suggested, because this was the Sleepless in Seattle period. Let's meet at the Empire State Building because I'd never
Ooh.
been, right? I'd lived in New York for quite a while at that time, like 8 years, and I'd never been. I never did anything touristy. I hit the ground running when I went there. I got a job within like 1 week, and I was dry, and then I was like going to school. I didn't really do tourist stuff. And I was like, I thought Sharon's thinking out, hey, looking out for her girl. And so I standing in the lobby. I have no idea what he looks like, and every single guy I remember, I'll never forget this. And I was in a cute period at that point. I actually had a little bit of confidence. I'd done like a little Weight Watchers for 6 months, so I was feeling myself a little bit, feeling a little confident. Um, and so I'm standing there, and every guy that goes by, I'm like, oh God, please don't be him. Please don't be him. Please don't. Okay. Oh, is this him? It was so stressful. And then all of a sudden, this guy is in my face, and he's adorable. He really was. He was really adorable. And he's like, "Are you Mia?" And I'm like, "Yes." And that was my first Phil. I married two Phils. So this was Phil from Seattle that I met in New York.
Uh-huh.
My my second Phil I met in Seattle, who was from New York. So go figure. My mom was not happy to hear that I was marrying a second Phil at first. She said, "I'm going to call him something else." I'm like, "Okay." She didn't like my first husband. But anyway, that's where I met my first husband. And after I met him in the Empire State Building, we had actually those first few months were the most fun I'd ever had. He would come up on weekends, or I'd go to Pennsylvania. It was a lot of fun. I was like living my best life.
Did he drink?
Um, no, he'd been sober 12 years. I'd been sober 2 years when we met. Again, I thought she fixed us up. When I talked to Sharon later, she goes, "Oh God, no." I didn't. I actually. He was a friend of mine. Like I didn't even know him that well. I was just trying to be, thinking, New York, and you showed me New York, so I wasn't. She wasn't trying to do anything. That's what I do. I make shit up. And even in those first few months with the other Phil, baby Phil is what we called him. Is he's literally was this big, and my husband is this big. So baby Phil. would always show me pictures of like his kid and everything. And I made up a story in my head that he loved his little boy. He had a little boy in Seattle and show me pictures of his family. And sometimes he'd get a little weepy. And I thought, oh my God, he loves his family. You know, I had a lot of misconceptions, a lot of things I made up based on those, they weren't based in fact. I was
Is
just like,
that what
oh, you
we
must be the best dad.
is that what we
Yeah.
call magical thinking? Or is that
Yes.
something else? Magical
Yeah.
thinking, right?
Here it's like to me, I wanted to think somebody was looking out for me. I went through all those shitty dates, that horrible night at Show World, these horrible sober dates. Here's this cute guy. He's from Seattle. It's my hometown. He has a kid. I love kids. Oh my God, my life is starting. I'm so excited. And at that point, I'd been living in Brooklyn Heights for about a year. And Brooklyn Heights was way different than my Hell's Kitchen and my Fort Greene experiences. Um, I looked out my kitchen window and I could see this couple in their backyard of their brownstone playing with their twins. I was beginning to have like ovaries and whatever. We're going, hey, it's time. Let's get out of this. So I thought my prince had come. I thought I'd won the lottery. And I did have a lot of damaged self-esteem, and I didn't really think I deserved. Deep down looking back, I really didn't. But I was fun. I was fun. And I was, I had a lot of friends at that point. My life was going really great. I am really, he liked me a lot. I don't think he ever really fell in love with me, but I really fell in love with him. And I think he liked me enough to keep it going. And we ended up moving back to Seattle. His family loved me. His first ex-wife loved me. She was more destroyed when our marriage, he called an end to our marriage. She called me so upset because his son loved me. It was a great opportunity to learn about a lot of things. Trust me. Um, I will tell you, just so we went out for a while. We got a house before we got married, and then I think he felt pressured to ask me to marry him, and he did on Christmas Eve in front of his family. And he would tell me later, I hadn't really had a present, and I had bought the ring for you, and I thought, oh, let's just do it now. So he had no real heart in anything. I would find out his heart wasn't in it, but I wanted so much for this, and his family wanted it so much for us. And he would say things like, "You make everything fun. You make everything fun." He got a lot out of it, and I got a lot out of
Well, at
it.
least okay.
I did too. I loved being a stepmom. I loved his family. I loved having a big family that celebrated everything. It was wonderful while it was wonderful. I had a beautiful wedding. My mom was still alive then, so she got to do my flowers. She was a florist. Like I have lots of things. I'm not going to tell you the divorce part was awful. It was the most painful fucking thing.
But how could you tell? But was there, looking back, you can
Mhm.
feel like, oh, his heart wasn't in it? I mean, did you
Yeah, you
just
always
delude
had a
yourself
foot
at the
out the door.
time?
Yeah. I mean, because if I really, the week before the wedding, he sat down at our kitchen table and he goes, I don't think we should do this. And now we'd been engaged for a year, been planning a wedding for over a year, like a year and a half. And now I've got brothers coming out from New York, and I've got, and it's like less than a week before the wedding. It was like a Sunday. And I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? So here's where my program was at that point. I was sober now, um, 4 years, maybe 5 years. And I didn't have, I didn't, I had friends in the program, but I wasn't working directly with like one person who was hearing all my stuff. So what I felt when he did that was absolutely humiliated and embarrassed. And I didn't want to tell anybody because I wasn't really having those kind of conversations, those real conversations where I was letting people know, I don't know if his heart's really, I hadn't told anybody any of that. I was living my best life. I thought I was living like I was getting everything I wanted. So I called his mother and said, get your boy in line because he's trying to call this fucking wedding off and I am not here for it. And that's how it's like he got doubtful and I got very willful. And it's like, we're getting married. And if you weren't convinced I was a double Taurus, now you know I am a double Taurus. So I married my very Aquarius husband, not a great mix, a week later. And there were lots of signs. There were lots of signs. That was obviously one that was very big. And I would say the reason I even share that, as humiliating as it was, is that, I don't do life that way today. And I haven't done life that way in a long time. When shit hits the fan, I have people I can check it out with that know all my stuff in and out of programs. My best friend from Seattle, I can call her and go, honey, my ass is falling off. And she knows what's up. I could not do that at that point. I hadn't really developed that yet. I had literally kind of same thing, hit the ground running in Seattle when we moved back with, we're building a life. I'm going to get married. I'm going to be a mom. I'm going, like, yay, I'm 30 and everything's coming together. And
It's so understandable.
yeah, I really wanted it. And I think he wanted to want it. And we were both in program and we both did a lot of fun stuff together. We had a boat together. We had a RV together. We did every cookout and weekend thing with other people in programs. We took multiple trips to Hawaii. We were very busy as a couple, very busy. And
Oh,
and
why
then
couldn't
it
he make
was,
it work?
it started to really the first conversation was, we can't afford to keep this house. He was miserable. He had a really good paying job and he hated it. And he wanted to do something different. And he went from a 6-figure salary to barely making like $20,000 a year. It affected us. He's like, we can't afford to live here. We went now into a little apartment. So that was the first, like, the wind is coming out of the sails. And then as you know, and I've written some stories about, I skipped over it, but I had family very involved in multi-level marketing stuff, including Amway, Est, all this stuff. And Est was a big one. I did Est when I was 16. My ex-husband, well, he was still my husband then. He got enrolled in something called LifeSpring, which was like Est part two.
S2, yeah, S 2.0.
So he had just completed his final weekend in LifeSpring. And I knew enough about that shit, and it was like, good for you. And he got back at like 2 a.m. and he tried to wake me up he's like, we need to talk. And it was like, I worked for a really big deal and I had to be to work at like 6 a.m. And I'm like, dude, I can't talk right now. I need to sleep. Like, why are you waking me up? I have like a huge event. It was like Bill Gates was involved. It was like, I can't talk to you right now. So I was like, leave me alone. And that was Mother's Day, by the way. I remember that was Mother's Day. I'd spent the Mother's Day with my mother and I had certainly hung out and spent time with his first wife, whatever, but he was in LifeSpring that weekend. And that Monday, I went to work very early. I also got off kind of early and I came home and I was walking the dog and he called me on a cell phone and I was walking our dog. And he goes, Mia, I just have to let you know that I am so unhappy. I feel like we're just playing house and I want out of this marriage. And if you saw Sex in the City and saw the breakup where where you went, I'm sorry, I can't, don't hate me.
Post-it
That was
note.
my version. It was my post-it note. I'm like, are you fucking kidding me that we're doing this? Well, I'm walking our dog. It felt like I got hit behind with a truck. That is not what I thought then I'm like, oh, you were trying to wake me up to break up our marriage, like a post LifeSpring. That was your big takeaway. And
Fuck
what was
LifeSpring.
amazing, fuck LifeSpring. When he did that, when he said that to me, he was with his sponsor. I'm using that word. Okay. He was with
That's
his guy.
okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So he was with his guy. So he had obviously taken all of his angst of what he didn't get to say in the middle of the night to this man and then decided to call me. It was very cowardly. It was very hurtful. I deserve better than that. And I knew enough about who I was by then to go, what's up? Seriously? You're going to do this over the phone? And it was very painful for the next year of my life. I feel like what my life has been like with these, again, I helped co-create this marriage that wasn't really genuine. Like I was part of it. And I accept responsibility for that. And what's ironic is I had done that amends step with him about a year prior to that. that because I really wanted to have kids, he didn't. And so we kind of like, and I was starting to own my part of wanting it to be something that it wasn't. Anyway, I think going through divorce in a program when you have a lot of the same friends and you work these programs that are saving our lives, or at least, that point certainly felt that way. Dissolving a marriage in that situation is really tricky. And it was difficult and it was really painful. And I will say I leaned on some different programs at the time because I knew I was safe to go to meetings where I wasn't going to see him. And he very quickly started dating somebody in the program that he was going to meetings with. So that was happening too. So I say that because you know what? That's what happens with people. I mean, with this past weekend with the whole Coldplay thing and the guy cheating with his wife and this, it's like, these environments where it's like you're doing stuff that could hurt people, and he was just happy again, and I was trying to pick up the pieces. And I'll say that what I got to do because I did some things. So I heard a lot for about a year, and then I honestly can tell you that I came home from having been with some girlfriends, and I remember sitting there in my apartment, my little divorce condo that I got, very tiny little condo, but it was a safe little space. And I remember sitting there going, I'm not doing this crying shit anymore. I'm tired of living like I'm walking on eggshells. I have my whole life ahead of me. I was 39, but I was like, I still got time. And I'm done. I'm done being distraught every day. And so I remember it was just a real like pivotal thing for me. And I took tap dancing lessons. I started ski lessons. I really got very busy. I started working with a group of play actors in a murder mystery troupe, and I started doing that. And that's how I met my husband of eight. Well, we've been together 20 years.
The
I
next
met this
Phil.
Phil. I met Big Phil. I'd actually known him and seen him in meetings. And what was always fun is the whole show world story. Whenever I told that at a podium, he was the only one that would laugh because he knew it. It was so funny. And if you know Phil, he's from New York and he talks like he's gargled glass and his laugh is very booming. And he was always the one that got it. When I was like, my last night of drinking, we ended up at Show World and nobody in Seattle had any idea what he always knew. So, yeah, we started having these rehearsals and it's like, and I honestly thought I will never get married again. Like I said, I don't flirt, I don't date. I did
Especially
do
to
some,
another Phil.
oh my God. I really did not think that was the thing. And I had done, I will tell you, I've done the online dating thing. And I think I wrote a story about that where I think it was match.com that I did. I might have done like eHarmony too. And I met this one guy for a date. And I remember, the way he wrote his profile, the four agreements and all these things. I thought, oh, I'm going to meet a really cool kindred spirit. I meet him at a restaurant and I walk in and I can see him looking me up and down. And that was my first like, oh, this is strange because like he was really checking me out. And I don't and it wasn't like he was happy. He was just like, right? And then over dinner, he's like, so you don't drink anymore, huh? And I'm like, no, I know, not at all, not ever. I'm like, no, and he's like, I bet you were a real party girl when you drank, though, weren't you? Like it was so gross. It
Oh,
was so slimy. And I'm like, where is this going? Like, I just hated it. And then I dated the guy that wore the baseball hat that never would take it off. And I'm like, what are you hiding under that fucking hat? We went out on like 4 dates and he would not take the baseball hat off. And I was like, okay. I thought after maybe, and then I had a really great date with a guy. It was fabulous. And we went he goes, let's go for a walk. You want to go for a walk? It was like the Kirkland Marina. It was very romantic. We had a great meal. We did this great walk. We come back to the car and I'm thinking, this is where I knew I was going to a rehearsal. And he's like, this was really nice, but I don't need to see you again. I don't need to have another date. And I was like, I'm done. I'm fucking done. I'm not doing this anymore. Okay. I'm done. I was so sure that one, it was so nice. It was really such a nice experience. Well, he must have had a good bit. Yeah. He was like, we don't need to do this again. So I gave it a rest and I threw myself into all these activities. and went to other meetings that I knew I wouldn't see the ex-husband. And somewhere along the line, the troupe enrolled this guy, who's over here sitting on the couch, to come in and play one of the parts in the new play we were doing. And that's how we started spending so much time together. And we would just go, I thought, I think I like him because there was something about him that I just, I really liked him. But it was just, what was beautiful about it is 6 months we hung out. We saw each other all the time. We didn't so much as hold hands. We didn't do nothing. And then all of a sudden, so that started like in the summer. And by that December, he said, are you going to this Christmas party that was every year? Are you going to go to their Christmas party? And I'm like, yeah. And he's like, you want to go together? I'm like, all right. So it was like, that was the first real, like, maybe. And we still met in our own cars. And then I met him and we went. And then when we got back from that, I remember he was saying, he goes, there's a reason you ain't coming up to my apartment and then I'm not going up to yours. And I'm like, oh, okay. And he's like, I don't have an off switch. So like when I'm on, I'm on, and I don't shit where I eat.
Oh,
And we're both in the program, right? And he's like,
okay.
I don't, yeah, this
But
is
you're like,
like,
it's a
so
play. It's not
yeah, it's
like,
like, what are we doing? Yeah. And it's like, all right. So he's telling me what's up. And and then we had so much fun at that party. It was so fun. And everything started to turn a little bit, and by the first of the year, it was like once it was on pretty quickly. And we've been together ever since. This will be our 21st year together this December. So,
oh,
um,
congratulations. So, okay, I want to hear though. So you start dating, you
mhm.
both don't have an off switch. None
Right.
of us have an off switch. Even people listening to this podcast don't have an
Yeah,
off
yeah.
switch. So it's gets intense kind of
Yeah,
fast.
it really does. It really went from it went very quickly. And I just remember that particular we went and had I think we went to like a late night thing after that Christmas party and we talked and then I remember he was going to speak at a meeting and he said, if you want, I'm going to be speaking and we'll meet. And then he said, you want to grab some dinner? Is there, oh, I know, that's what he said. He goes, so you have an espresso machine in your apartment? That was his comment. And I'm like, I have a coffee pot. He's like,
Uh,
all right. And he's like, well, is there like a restaurant around where you live? You want to go grab something to eat? And then, maybe we can go have some coffee. And I'm like, oh, like it was starting, that was it. And it's like, honestly, from that very first time he came into my apartment, and it was really cool because he walked in. And the truth is, I felt pretty defeated when I bought that little baby condo because I'd had two beautiful homes and then kind of a shitty apartment. And my life kind of went, right? And I'm now, but I'm in this little divorce condo, which I had made with the help of my girlfriends and program friends who showed up and did everything from paint to it. It was a beautiful little tiny, beautiful 650 square feet. He walked in and he went, oh my God, I feel like I'm walking in Mia. Like it's so you. Like he got me. And I loved that. It was like, that's pretty cool. He's like, it really is. It's like, it's so Mia. And I'd had girlfriends say that, and it's like, he really got it. And we started talking and we talked like all the way into the night. And I don't know, it's like, I will say that we told each other we loved each other a couple weeks after that. And yeah, it was pretty, we knew, but we had literally been together weekly, several nights a week having meals, breaking bread, talking on the phone. We talked on the phone for months. He was actually interested in another girl in the cast. So he was talking to me and getting advice from me before we were, um, and and what was funny is this girl that he was attracted to was pretty heartily addicted to pain medication and had patches all over her body. And it was like, good luck with that. It's like, okay. So it really turned out that the woman that was my sponsor and her husband had, when he was like, when he was trying to check out, should I maybe like date Mia, and was talking to them about it, and they're like, maybe you want to try something different, than what you're usually attracted to, and see, because it's not like he wasn't attracted to me. He flirted with me all the time, all the time. I mean, like nobody had done that. I'm not a big flirt, but he'd be like, nothing, nothing, but you got a great ace, like all that kind of stuff. And I was like, he seems like anyway. But yeah, maybe you want to try like getting to know someone a little differently than trying to pursue someone that has a problem with, pain patches. And then, yeah, I think it took that sort of little dips, like it was just like a little dip here, a little dip there, and then hold hands, and then and I had never done anything like that ever. I'd always gone right into, I'll go to show world with you and you'll be my boyfriend, kind of thing. And this was really different. And we've done big swings together and buried our parents together, and we both work a program. We're not in each other's programs. He has a very, I don't, we keep it really separate, but are very real supportive of what the other one needs for that stuff, without saying you need a meeting or go talk to your sponsor. We don't do that kind of stuff.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, we're really, in fact, very respectful. And when I started to look at some other things a few years ago, even though I knew it was making him a little bit nervous, not knowing what, because in fact, I started taking your classes at the same time I started that next program. And it was a lot. It changed my life. It changed my life in a lot of ways. It helped me really look at my addiction to food, So by doing all that kind of stuff, which uncovered all kinds of things, I'll just say that every program and every experience I've had, has led me to where I'm at today. Like I have no regrets about anything that I did. And I'm not that kind of person that's like, oh, I was, even with taking 3 times to, really get sober and want to really choose to live my life this way and be sober. I'm not shitty to my old young self. She had to know for sure. And she had to see what works and what doesn't work. And it's, I know, I certainly do know and understand and accept, alcoholic behavior and choices and impulses and compulsive behavior in me today. I still have it. So it's, but I have a lot of support and a lot of tools and a lot of friends, and it doesn't keep me from having emotion and bad days and tough days and all of that. But they're really, I don't stay in it. I really don't stay in anything for a really long time. I'm so grateful there's all these outlets, and writing has been, incredibly therapeutic. All the different ways that I write
Yeah,
is really a great way.
I was telling Phil when I was talking to him that it's interesting because I still find that I definitely have a lot of those same, the bad behavior. I don't want to call it even bad behavior, but the survival, the coping mechanisms that I had as a kid, the defensiveness, the anger, I guess, the you're not gonna like fuck with me kind of attitude is still there, but the sobriety has given me I don't know if you'd call it the confidence, the bravery to like look at stuff, and it's so much easier to be in a relationship where the instinct to get really mad and protect myself and shut down or whatever my thing is still there. I'm not perfect. Like if I get into an argument, I still tend to get real mad right away. But God, am I so much better at being able to just go, okay, let me get back to some empathy. Let me get back. Like sometimes my husband has to say, like, you need to listen to because there's a thing that happens where I cannot hear him anymore.
Shut down.
I'm in. It's not even like it's fight mode. It's in like, no, I'm going to make you see why you're wrong and why you're making me feel bad, And sometimes he's just like, you need to like, let me speak so that I can tell you where I'm coming from. And sometimes I can, and sometimes I can't, but I can much quicker.
Yeah,
Eventually I
that's it.
can, and it's like I might need a minute, and then I can go like, oh, I don't need to be like this mad. Like
Right.
he's not the enemy. Whereas I
No,
could never do that when I was drinking.
no, I didn't have, I didn't grow up really knowing what you were supposed to do. And I certainly, that first marriage taught me a lot about a lot of things. I have no regrets. There, again, so much, but it also, what was great about it was when you're with somebody that it really chooses and it really shows up and shows, like, I don't have any doubt. I don't doubt. I don't think he has a foot out the door. Like he hesitated in the beginning to get serious until he knew like I wasn't just there to like, have a fling. Um, and it is a very different experience to have a partner. It's a very different experience. I did a lot of the heavy lifting in that marriage. I worried about things for both of us. I did things on behalf of both of us. I managed his family stuff on behalf of him. I overfunctioned, and I don't in this relationship. It's like for a lot of reasons. I've learned a lot how, but he also is just a really, like willing and good. We know what we kind of have figured out what we're good at and what we're not. And there, it's also being like when you're talking about just, getting mad, it's like sometimes I don't always like his personality or the way he is in certain situations. I'd be lying. And I know that he probably would say the same thing about me. Um, he's very much a New Yorker. And so I do get it. It's like, don't do sweet, fake small talk with my husband in the store in the checkout line. He is not down with it. Don't ask him how his plans are, what he's going to do later. That is not, he actually gets very stoic, and I over like, oh, yeah, I'm so nice. And it's like those kinds of situations can be kind of stressful and make me anxious because he is who he is. So there's just times where I'm just like, don't pick it up. It's like I probably go through that every week, every Monday when we go shopping. It's just always an interesting, at times there's things that stress us out in different ways. So being able to just breathe in and out when I'm uncomfortable or anxious or want to go, oh no, because sometimes I think he's such a big, rough guy. And we do live in a time now where, blink twice if you're hurting, right? Or you're scared. He's a big, tough guy. And I think, do people think you beat me or something? Because he's so like, he's big, he's intimidating. I don't think he realizes or remembers sometimes that. And it's like, it's interesting the kind of, stuff that goes through your head around the way people show up. But he's so authentic. I do get to see all the sides of him that aren't uh, always out in public, you know, which is lovely. And when I think about, like it's sad, but that husband that I was married to, the first Phil, he passed away a year ago.
Oh,
It was
wow.
unreal. He was found by his girlfriend dead on their dining room table. He had just been with his family that weekend. He was not overweight. But he had some sort of blockage and didn't know it. And I guess he hadn't been feeling great and he hadn't gone to the doctor and he dropped dead in his own house after work one day. And, it's just fascinating to me. Um, that was a very interesting thing to go through as well, to kind of go, God, it's not what I would have thought. He wasn't very old. I don't feel like we're very old in our, early 60s.
Yeah.
Um, I was shocked. And it was his first wife. She texted me and went, "Our Phil died." I was like, what? It's like another very interesting thing. And it's like, so what do you do? Because he'd had this girlfriend for 20 years and I had been married to him. So would this other one. Do I show up? Do I go? What's the right thing? So I just chose to write letters to each of his family members and just, because we had kind of, we found a sweet spot. That's program stuff. That's sobriety. We had found a
Yeah.
way to be thoughtful with each other. He let me know when he had his grandchild, when his son had a little boy, and he stayed in touch with me, and his first ex-wife always stayed in touch with me. So it's really, to me, that says a lot about, I mean, the kind of people that we are and that we attract, that we're all really doing the best we can. We're all really human. I've certainly learned to not think that alcoholics, whether they're in a program or still actively drinking, are any better or worse than anyone else or having any different experiences in humanity than anyone else. It's like I am, but I'm very grateful to have tools because I didn't grow up being given, so this is what you do when this shit happens, and this is what you do when this shit happens. It's like I definitely was making it up as I went along, and I felt like I grew up way too fast. And so to be able to be at a point now where I have sort of integrated my little girl, my teenager who's kind of like fuck everybody all the time, and the little girl that just wants to play and spend money and wear pink, and the grown up that's like, let's just pull us all together. And like, this one has a voice and this one has a voice, but we're not going to let any one of those or the alcoholic, that's in her ick run my life today,
I
and
love that.
that's
Yeah. That's
growth.
amazing. Well, this has been so great. And in case somebody didn't listen to the first episode with you, tell us again where we can find you. I will also put it in the description, but it's Mia Idrissi's writing a
Yeah.
book.
Mia Alicia Idrissi is writing a book. Yes, I know my whole name. And Mia is writing a memoir.com is where my writing is.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'll
Okay.
give it to you and you can post it or whatever.
I
But
just want to thank you so
thank
much
you
for
for asking
giving
me.
so much time. Your story is just it's unbelievable. It really does need to be a memoir, so please don't give up on that.
I'm not going to.
Finish it.
I'm not. I will.
It's so good.
So close. All right,
Okay. It
Stefanie.
was so
Thank
good
you
to
for
see
asking
you.
me.
Of course. I will talk to you soon. Bye,
Right.
everybody.
Like life is good, yeah. Life is good.